Hey everyone, this is Michael again and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. And Monday Night Raw, as always, absolutely terrible show. This show was boring tonight, it was worthless, and it did absolutely nothing to get you all hyped for Elimination Chamber. This build towards Elimination Chamber has been awful. Absolutely awful. What do we get on the show tonight? We had AJ Styles versus Damian Priest. We had, once again, Dominik Mysterio versus The Miz, which we saw last week. We had Bianca Belair versus Nikki, A.S.H. We had Kevin Owens versus Austin Theory once again. We saw that last week. Only this week it wasn't a Elimination Chamber qualifying match, which it was last week. We had Doudrop versus Liv Morgan, Snore, and in the main event we had Riddle versus SETH Rollins. Overall, Monday Night Raw, absolutely terrible show. As always. Absolutely boring. Let's jump right in to the review. Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with the Quiz Bowl challenge between RKBRO and the Alpha Academy. And I forgot to mention, Monday Night Raw was on Sci-Fi tonight. It's going to be on Sci-Fi for the next 2 weeks because on USA, the Olympics, the Winter Olympics are going on. So Monday Night Raw and NXT are going to be on Sci-Fi for the next 2 weeks. But watch Monday Night Raw gets a low rating. I'm expecting maybe a 1.4, 1.2 for this week's show. So Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with the Quiz Bowl between RKBRO and the Alpha Academy. This whole segment was awful. These challenges between RKBRO and the Alpha Academy are fucking awful. 2 weeks ago, it started with the Spelling Bee. Last week, it was a scooter race. And now this week, it was a Quiz Bowl. And watching this segment, I'm like, am I watching a pro wrestling show or am I watching Game Show Network? Felt like I was watching Game Show Network over a pro wrestling show. So Kevin Patrick was in the ring. He ended up welcoming us to the final activity of the Academic Challenge, which was the Quiz Bowl between RKBRO and the Alpha Academy. So we had Chad Gable and Otis. They were on the right side of the ring, while Randy Orton and Riddle were on the other side. So, of course, Alpha Academy ended up getting booed by the Denver crowd. Kevin Patrick ended up showing highlights from the past two challenges. So we saw the Spelling Bee from 2 weeks ago and the scooter race from last week. So during the Quiz Bowl, there were different categories. There was U.S. presidents, mythology. There was a cartoons category, pop culture, film and literature, and RK-Bro and the Alpha Academy had to pick these categories. So the first question was from the U.S. presidents category, and it was about the first president to be elected with a college degree. That was the question. It went to Chad Gable. Chad Gable ended up getting the question right because he answered John Adams. So the Alpha Academy ended up picking up a point. Riddle then ended up picking from the biology category. And the question was, how many hearts does an octopus have? So Riddle ended up saying octopuses have 3 hearts. So he ended up getting the question right. So Chad Gable was like to Riddle, oh, you got lucky on that one. So then Gable ended up picking from the Greek mythology category, and he got his question right because it was about Icarus. And Orton ended up picking from the cartoons category, which the question was about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, on who has a sword in Ninja Turtles, and he ended up guessing Michelangelo because it was thanks to Riddle, because Riddle ended up helping Orton out. So, yeah, good that we got a question of the Ninja Turtles. So then Gable ended up seething about a cartoons category that was being allowed in this quiz bowl. Orton ended up shutting Gable up. He ended up knocking Otis, telling Otis to go next. So this question was from the geography category. And it went to Otis. And the question was about the largest state of the lower 48. So Otis ended up picking Texas. And he ended up getting it right. Riddle ended up picking from the pop culture category. And the question was about Justin Bieber marrying Haley Baldwin and who her father is. So Riddle was like, oh, can I use my lifeline? I want to call my friend Justin Bieber. But Kevin Patrick ended up telling Riddle, oh, you can't use a lifeline. There is no lifeline here. So Matt Riddle was thinking he was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So Orton ended up saying that the only Baldwin he knows is Alec Baldwin. But that answer was wrong. So Chad Gable and Otis end up stealing the point because Gable ended up saying this man is in one of his absolute favorite films of all time. And his favorite film of all time is Biodome, Stephen Baldwin, which Biodome is a guilty pleasure of mine. I really like Biodome with Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin, where they're trapped in this biodome. It's a funny film. It's not a good movie by any means, but it's a guilty pleasure for me. So we had Chad Gable end up getting it right. So the next point wins the whole challenge. You know, Alpha Academy will win the whole challenge. So Gable ended up picking from the film and literature category. The question was about which Shakespeare story has been made into the most movies. So Gable ended up picking Romeo and Juliet. But he ended up getting that wrong. And Riddle ended up picking Hamlet. So he ended up getting it right. So then Orton ended up picking from the sports category. And the question was, which NFL quarterback had the most wins in Broncos history? So Orton ended up asking Denver, the crowd, for some help. And so they ended up shouting John Elway. So Orton ended up going with that, which he was right. So the Alpha Academy and RKBRO were tied at 4. So Gable was seething. And the crowd was chanting, "You suck" to Gable. So Gable ended up picking from metric conversions, that category. And his question was, how many grams are in an ounce? So Gable ended up getting the question wrong. And Riddle ended up going to answer. He was talking about scales. So Orton ended up interrupting. He indicated that he also likes to smoke. He ended up getting it right with 28 grams in 1 ounce. So they ended up getting it right. RKBRO wins the quiz bowl. So Gable ended up wanting a redo, but RKBRO was taunting the Alpha Academy with the 3 most dangerous letters in sports entertainment, RKO. And Gable and Otis were destroying everything in the ring. So someone was pressing the buzzer, and it was driving Chad Gable crazy. And out came the Street Profits. The Street Profits, Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, they were taunting the Alpha Academy for losing the Quiz Bowl. Gable and Otis ended up going to ringside. The Profits were ready for the smoke. They ended up approaching Chad Gable. Otis ended up leveling Montez Ford from behind, knocking him down. And that was that. Overall, this Quiz Bowl segment was awful, in my opinion. Thank God these challenges between RKBRO and the Alpha Academy are finally over. They have been awful, these challenges. And then we had the first match of the night, which this match started 20 minutes into the show. Yeah, that whole Quiz Bowl segment took 20 minutes of the show. So the first hour ran completely commercial free. So we didn't get any commercials. So the first match was the Alpha Academy versus the Street Profits. This was an okay match. The match started off with Montez Ford ignoring Chad Gable. He ended up running to drop kick Otis off the apron. He then went to work on Chad Gable, started unloading on Chad Gable, kicking him around. Dawkins ended up tagging in. He ended up dropping Chad Gable with his shoulder. He ended up going for the cover. Gable kicked out too. So Gable delivered some arm drags, but Dawkins ended up nailing the drop kick to Gable. Ford ended up tagging in. He ended up kicking Gable from the apron, ended up dropping him. Otis ended up sweeping Montez Ford off the apron to the floor. Ford ended up rolling back into the ring. And Otis was now the legal man in the match. Otis ended up decking Montez Ford. He ended up leveling Ford with a clothesline. He ended up delivering a big splash to Ford in the middle of the ring. He started overpowering on Montez Ford, started grounding him. Otis delivered a splash in the corner to Ford. And Otis ended up charging into the corner again. Ford ended up moving out of the way. Otis ended up hitting the ring post. So Ford ended up sending Otis into the ropes with an enziguri. So Dawkins and Gable ended up tagging in. Dawkins ended up hitting a slam to Otis and then a corkscrew splash in the corner. Dawkins ran the ropes. Gable ended up decking him, delivered a belly-belly suplex. Gable ended up covering Dawkins, and Dawkins ended up kicking out too. Dawkins got right back up. He ended up delivering a right hand to Chad Gable, hit another suplex. He ended up going for the cover, and Otis ended up breaking it up. Otis and Ford got into it. Ford delivered an enziguri to Otis. He ended up dumping Otis through the ropes out to the floor, and Otis landed on his feet. So Ford ended up running the ropes. He ended up leaping out, taking Otis down on the floor. Gable ended up rolling Dawkins up for a 2 count. So Gable ended up taking Dawkins back down into an ankle lock. Dawkins ended up resisting, and Gable ended up turning that into a pin. So there you go. The Alpha Academy ended up winning the match. Overall, match was okay, in my opinion. And then we had MVP. MVP was in the ring, and he got on the mic. He ended up saying, "It is his privilege and honor to present to us." So he ended up calling on the crowd to stand up. Not just because this person is from here in Denver, but because he's a Brock Lesnar beaten, title taken, reigning and defending WWE champion. And that guy is the almighty Bobby Lashley. So Bobby Lashley ended up coming out. He got a pop from his hometown. Bobby Lashley ended up slapping hands with some of the fans. And there was chants of Bobby as he ended up coming into the ring. So MVP ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying that we should have had a proper celebration last week because Bobby Lashley won the match built up for decades. And he slayed the Beast and took back his WWE Championship. MVP ended up saying that he knows some people say that Bobby Lashley only won due to interference by the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. But Bobby Lashley didn't see any of that, and that Brock Lesnar would have done the same thing. MVP wants to say that the only thing that matters is that Bobby Lashley pinned Brock Lesnar, and the Almighty stood victorious. So MVP went on about how grand last week should have been, but instead they got Adam Pearce announcing the Elimination Chamber for the WWE Championship. So MVP ended up saying, that brings us back to Brock Lesnar. MVP ended up giving Brock Lesnar props for winning the Royal Rumble to earn his WrestleMania title shot from Roman Reigns. He ended up saying, but Brock Lesnar entering the Elimination Chamber in hopes of making it a title versus title match at WrestleMania is pure fantasy. And there is talk. There is talk that WWE is going to do a title versus title match at WrestleMania, where it's going to be a unification of the titles, and hopefully, just hopefully, WWE right there will end the brand split. Hopefully that happens. So MVP ended up saying that Bobby Lashley will leave Elimination Chamber as he left the Rumble with the WWE Championship. So MVP ended up giving praise to the other guys in the chamber. He ended up saying, but they are men. He ended up saying, when you're talking about Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar, you're talking about monsters. And Bobby Lashley is the biggest and baddest of them all. Lashley then got on the mic. Lashley ended up saying that Lesnar disrespected him for the last time. He ended up saying that Lesnar doesn't demand anything from him. So Bobby Lashley ended up knocking Lesnar for showing up with his MMA gloves. So Bobby Lashley ended up wondering when the last time Brock Lesnar defended the title, or when he last wrestled on Monday Night Raw. Bobby Lashley ended up saying that he will be disrespected no more, and he hopes it comes down to him and Brock Lesnar in the chamber, so he can pin Bobby Lashley, so that he can pin Brock Lesnar again. So Lashley ended up saying that it won't be him and Brock Lesnar locked in the chamber. It will be Lesnar locked in the chamber with him. So Lashley ended up looking ahead to put in Brock Lesnar in the hospital and send him to WrestleMania to challenge Roman Reigns. Lashley ended up saying that he will then be defending his WWE Championship in the main event of WrestleMania. And so that was that. Overall, the segment was, okay, in my opinion. Bobby Lashley on the mic. He's awesome on the mic. So we're going to be seeing Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar, in the chamber, Elimination Chamber in 2 weeks, along with the other participants in the chamber. So hopefully the chamber match, will be decent. And then we had the Alexa Bliss journey back to Monday Night Raw. These segments have been awful. So the therapy session ended up continuing. Alexa's therapist ended up asking Alexa to hand over the replica of Lily to practice a separation exercise. So Bliss ended up handing the replica Lily doll over to the therapist. And the therapist ended up telling Bliss that it's going to be okay. So Alexa Bliss starts crying, and that was that. The segment was continued later on in the night. And then we had Damian Priest versus AJ Styles. Championship contenders match. WWE in these championship contenders matches. Stop with these championship contenders matches. They mean nothing. And they still keep doing them. These championship contenders matches don't make any fucking sense. So AJ Styles ended up coming out first. And then Damian Priest. So the match ended up starting. Styles ended up ducking a lockup. He ended up nailing a chop to Damian Priest. Priest ended up tossing Styles into the corner. And it was back and forth between them. Styles ended up tossing Damian Priest out to the floor. And then Styles ended up launching himself with a flying forearm to Priest. Priest ended up going down as Styles ended up bringing him back into the ring. Styles went for the cover. Priest kicked out at 2. Priest ended up countering. He ended up spiking Styles to the mat. Priest delivered a stage dive hip attack in the corner to Styles. Styles countered, and Damian Priest ended up leveling him with a clothesline. Priest ended up taking Styles to the top turnbuckle, and he ended up climbing up for a superplex. Styles ended up escaping. Styles ended up blocking the Reckoning from Damian Priest. Priest ended up blocking the Styles Clash. Styles ended up ducking a kick. He ended up dropping Damian Priest from his shoulders over his knee with a backbreaker. So he went for the cover. Priest kicked out at 2. It was more back and forth between Styles and Priest from the corner. So Priest ended up dodging the inverted moonsault from Styles. He ended up nailing a boot. Priest ended up spiking Styles face first into the mat. He ended up going for the cover. Styles kicked out at 2. So we had Priest and Styles. They were trading strikes. Styles ended up hitting the Pele kick, and Priest ended up landing on Styles. He went for the cover, and Styles kicked out at 2. Styles ended up nailing the forearm from the apron. He ended up springboarding up for the phenomenal forearm. Priest ended up cutting him off and delivered a headbutt. Priest ran the ropes, and Styles ended up delivering the phenomenal forearm to Priest. And he went for the cover, and there you go. AJ Styles ended up winning the match. So once again, Damian Priest ends up losing. And right here, Damian Priest is starting to lose some of his momentum, his steam, as United States Champion. This is the second loss for Damian Priest. So now AJ Styles earns a future United States Championship match, which that match is going to take place next week on Monday Night Raw. It's going to be AJ Styles versus Damian Priest. United States Championship is going to be on the line. What's going to be so different in the match next week that we saw tonight, even though the United States Championship is going to be on the line? What's going to be any different? It's going to be the same match, only the United States Championship is on the line. And then we saw Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins backstage. Rollins ended up saying that he can't believe Kevin Owens isn't in the Elimination Chamber. Owens ended up saying that he isn't happy with Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce, to which Rollins ended up agreeing with Owens. He ended up saying that he believes that with Rollins' influence and support and his own determination and popularity, after he beats Austin Theory tonight, Deville and Pearce will have no choice but to put him in the Elimination Chamber to replace Austin Theory. So Kevin Owens ended up wanting to make sure that Rollins isn't lying to him. So Rollins ended up laughing. He ended up saying that he's a lot of things and that he's not a liar. So that was that. And then we had Miz TV. So the Miz ended up coming out with his wife, Maurice. So Miz ended up getting on the mic. He ended up giving up for Maurice for fighting Beth Phoenix and him fighting Edge at the Royal Rumble last week. Miz ended up introducing his guest, who he brags about beating last week. And his guest was Dominik Mysterio and also Rey. So it was the Mysterios. So the Mysterios end up coming out. Miz ended up saying that he brought Rey and Dominik on Miz TV because when he senses hostility, he likes to address it head on. So he showed us what happened last week when he pretended that Rey interfered from ringside and the referee ejected Rey, which allowed the Miz to pin Dominik. So we saw that. So Miz ended up saying that he watches that and sees nothing wrong. So Rey ended up saying, "Really?" So Miz ended up asking Rey if he sees something wrong there. So Rey ended up accusing Miz of using underhanded tactics to beat his son. He ended up saying, does he have a problem with that? So Miz ended up couldn't believe that he's being accused of cheating. So he ended up asking the crowd the same thing. So the crowd ended up booing the Miz. He ended up saying, "Oh, you see this? When my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut." So the Miz ended up saying real cheaters were Beth, Phoenix, and Edge at the Rumble. Miz ended up going on. He ended up saying that he is not a cheater and that he outsmarted and outmaneuvered last week. He ended up saying that he's been here for a long time, and if you lose to him at this point, it's your own fault. So he ended up ranting about being cheated out of a spot in the Elimination Chamber for the WWE Championship. So Miz ended up saying that Rey got his spot in the qualifier, even though he's been in a tier since returning. So Miz got upset. He starts ranting about being the biggest WWE superstar, how he was on Dancing with the Stars, and how he's a 2-time Grand Slam champion. And he was saying, how come my face isn't on the posters or the WWE 2K22 cover? So he ended up showing us how Rey is on the cover of 2K22. So the Miz ended up asking what Rey has that he doesn't, or what Rey has that Maurice doesn't. Simple. Rey can wrestle and Maurice can't. So the Miz ended up saying that Maurice should be on the cover because she was tremendous at the Rumble. She was tremendous. She was awful. Maurice was awful in the ring. So Maurice ended up saying that Rey could learn a few things from her and call himself Rey Mysterio. So Rey was like, no thanks. Miz then continued ranting about cheers and respect. Dominik ended up stepping to Miz and he ended up telling him to show his father some respect. So Miz ended up asking Dominik if he wants a rematch. Dominik ended up saying he's on. Miz ended up pointing out how Dominik is taller than Rey. So Miz was like to Dominik, are you sure your real father is Eddie Guerrero? So Rey ended up snapping. Dominik ended up holding him back. We had an Eddie chant from the crowd. Dominik ended up dropping Miz. And that was that. And so it went into picture-in-picture, which it was cool to see that they went in picture-in-picture. But that was how the segment ended. But overall, this Miz TV segment was fucking awful. Absolutely dreadful. And then we had The Miz versus Dominik once again. This was a nothing match. This was just, Maurice trips Dominik. The referee ended up ejecting Maurice. And then Miz started pleading with the referee. And then Miz ended up dropping Dominik. Rey ended up tripping the Miz. And Dominik took advantage. He ended up rolling Miz up. And that was that. Dominik ended up winning. This is 50-50 booking. at its finest, as always, with WWE. Typical WWE with 50-50 booking. The Miz won last week, and now Dominik won this week. WWE loves the 50-50 booking. Moving on. Bianca Belair versus Nikki A.S.H. This was boring. So yeah, Bianca Belair ended up making her way out. And then we had Nikki A.S.H. She was already in the ring. Match ended up starting. They both locked up. Bianca Belair ended up dropping Nikki. And she ended up drop kicking Nikki. Bianca Belair ended up going after Nikki. But Nikki ended up dropping her using the apron cover. And Nikki started working on Bianca Belair. Nikki mounted Bianca, started working her over. So Nikki was focusing on Bianca's leg. She ended up applying a half crab to Belair. Belair ended up powering out. She ended up kicking Nikki away and out to the mat. Bianca Belair was limping, and Nikki ended up drop kicking her leg out. So Nikki ended up charging. Bianca managed to catch Nikki in midair, and she ended up hitting the fallaway slam. So Bianca ended up kipping up, and her knee was hurting. Bianca ended up scooping Nikki again, and of course her leg was hurting. Nikki ended up taking advantage, and Bianca ended up hitting a Northern Light suplex into a long vertical suplex, and she went for the cover. Nikki ended up kicking out too. So Bianca was trying to rally the crowd up. Nikki ended up nailing a tornado DDT, and it was back and forth between them. Bianca ended up connecting with a kick to Nikki's head from the apron, and then she ended up hitting the KOD. And there you go. Bianca Belair ended up winning the match. Overall, match was boring, in my opinion. Now we had the 24/7 garbage with Tamina, R-Truth, and Akira Tozawa. They were running away backstage, and they were looking for Reggie and Dana Brooke. So Dana and Reggie ended up coming out of hiding. Dana ended up thanking Reggie for always having her back and being such a nice guy. Dana ended up saying that she's a better champion because of Reggie. She ended up kissing Reggie on the cheek. And Reggie ended up wondering what all this means. Dana ended up saying to him that it means they are friends. Really good friends. And she hopes it never changes. So fans in the arena were booing because they didn't want to see this shit. So Reggie ended up hugging her. And he ended up apologizing. And he ended up saying that it's okay. So they ended up running away as R-Truth, Tamina, and Tozawa ended up coming. R-Truth ended up yelling about getting his title back, and that he wants Tamina and Tozawa to follow him again. So Reggie got friend-zoned, according to Corey Graves. Who cares? Who fucking cares about this 24/7 bullshit? It's garbage. Please, get the 24/7 title off TV. Retire it. Please. And then we had Kevin Owens versus Austin Theory. This was a decent match. This was enjoyable. We had Kevin Owens end up coming out. And then out came Austin Theory. The match ended up starting, and Theory ended up charging at Owens. Owens ended up sidestepping and delivering a super kick to Austin Theory. Owens started unloading until Austin Theory ended up drop kicking him, and then Theory took control of the match. Theory ended up doing two close pin attempts to Kevin Owens, which Owens ended up kicking out of both of them. Theory ended up mounting Owens with some right hands. Owens turned it around and delivered some sentons to Theory. Owens ended up missing the running shoulder thrust in the corner. He ended up hitting the ring post. And both guys ended up on the floor. Owens ended up leaping off the ring steps, taking Austin Theory down on the floor with a corner cannonball. So we had Owens end up dominating on Austin Theory. Theory ended up turning around, brought Owens in from the apron with a suplex, and he went for the cover. Owens ended up kicking out at 2. So Owens ended up dropping Theory, and they started trading right hands. Owens ended up delivering a corner clothesline to Theory, and then the corner cannonball. Theory ended up rolling out to the floor to take a breather. Owens ended up running the apron, ended up hitting a frog splash to Theory on the floor. He ended up bringing Theory back in, and he went for the cover. Austin Theory ended up kicking out at 2. Theory ended up blocking the pop-up powerbomb from Kevin Owens, and he ended up nailing a big left. Theory ended up hitting the ATL, which got blocked by Kevin Owens. So Kevin Owens ended up deciding to hit the stunner, which also got blocked by Theory. Theory ended up delivering a belly back suplex to Owens. He ended up going for the cover, which Owens ended up kicking out at 2. So Theory started delivering some more strikes in the corner to Kevin Owens. Theory ended up climbing up for a superplex. Owens ended up resisting. So Theory ended up going down. And Kevin Owens ended up catching him in a fireman's carry from the top down to the mat. So it was a cool move there. And Owens ended up going for the cover. Theory ended up kicking out. And Owens couldn't believe that. So we had Kevin Owens end up going up to the opposite corner for the frog splash. And Theory ended up getting his knees up. Owens ended up landing hard on his back. Theory ended up rolling to safety. He ended up coming back in. And Owens delivered a super kick. And then he went for the stunner, which he laid out Theory. And he went for the cover. And there you go. Kevin Owens ended up winning the match. Overall, decent match. Really enjoyed the match. And then we had Riddle backstage with Randy Orton. And he was talking about their title shot against the Alpha Academy. Orton ended up warning Riddle that he needs to focus on the Elimination Chamber, and that Riddle needs to focus on his match with Seth Rollins. So Riddle ended up agreeing, and he ended up saying that it would be sweet if he wins the WWE Championship, and then they win the Raw Tag Team Championships. Riddle ended up saying to celebrate tonight's win in the Quiz Bowl, he's throwing a Broga Toga party next week. And he wonders if Orton can make it. So Orton was like to Riddle, you should focus on tonight. And that was that. And then we had another vignette, a coming soon vignette for Veer Mahan. When is he going to debut? Who knows? From what I read, WWE has no plans for Veer. So we're going to be getting these coming soon vignettes for a while. Watch, in April, we'll still be getting Veer Mahan coming soon to Monday Night Raw. Like I said, I read in an article that WWE has no plans for this guy. This guy, he is on Main Event already. He's on WWE Main Event. But he has yet to appear on Monday Night Raw. What does that tell you? He's on Main Event, but not on Raw. And then we had Lita, WWE Hall of Famer Lita, a legend. She was in the ring, and she ended up talking about being in the Rumble. She ended up saying that it started to feel like home, as she was in there with Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley. She noted Becky Lynch's absence, so she went to officials and asked for the match, which she wanted for a long time. And then out came Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch ended up saying about how she grew up worshiping Lita when she was younger. She ended up saying that Lita didn't turn her nose up at her when she first got to the company. She ended up saying that she saw something in her, and for that, she is eternally grateful. Becky ended up saying that without Lita, there would be no Becky Lynch. But now, without her, without Becky Lynch, there can be no Lita. So Becky Lynch ended up going on about Lita trying to take everything from her at this most important time. She ended up saying that she's taken out others and she will do the same to Lita. So Becky Lynch ended up saying that she is in the prime of her career and Lita may have helped bring her up, but she will have no problem putting her down. Lita ended up saying that she knows Becky Lynch has the odds, and Lita has no issue being the underdog. She ended up going on, she ended up talking about how it was the fans who propped her up and still support her until this day. Well, we all still support Lita. She's a legend. You know, she's a WWE Hall of Famer. Lita ended up saying that as long as the fans are here, there's still a Lita, and she's okay with her odds. She ended up saying that Becky Lynch will have to get used to how she feels when she leaves Elimination Chamber as a 5-time WWE Women's Champion. Becky Lynch ended up saying that she will leave Lita with the people because that's all she'll ever have. So Becky Lynch turned to leave. She ended up charging at Lita, and Lita ended up going for the twist of fate. It got blocked by Becky Lynch. Becky ended up dropping Lita, started unloading on her. So we had Becky Lynch end up dropping the title. She ended up going back over, trying for the manhandle slam on Lita. Lita ended up blocking it. Lita ended up dropping Becky Lynch with a twist of fate. And Lita ended up going up to the top and nailed the moonsault onto Becky Lynch. So Lita ended up standing tall in the ring, and that was that. But we all know that Becky Lynch is going to retain the title at Elimination Chamber. No way that Lita is winning the title. You know, Lita's just there for a paycheck. But, you know, it's cool. It's cool to see Lita back. You know, just for this. And then we had Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce backstage. Sonya Deville was wearing a sling because of the armbar done by Ronda Rousey on SmackDown on Friday. So Adam Pearce ended up asking how Sonya Deville feels following what happened on SmackDown with Ronda Rousey. Sonya ended up saying that she doesn't want to talk about it. So Kevin Owens ended up walking up. And Kevin Owens was wondering if he's in the Elimination Chamber because he defeated Austin Theory. He ended up saying that they turned him down because qualifying matches were held last week. Kevin Owens ended up couldn't believe it that Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville were turning down the fans who wanted to see him go to WrestleMania to headline with his best friend. So Sonya Deville ended up saying that Kevin Owens may not even be at WrestleMania. Kevin Owens ended up saying that he can't believe this. He ends up going on about Texas and how they want him at WrestleMania. Kevin Owens ended up saying that he needs this, and they can't do this to him. He goes on and says, oh, you know, I made my debut at WrestleMania in Texas. So he ends up saying that he has to be at WrestleMania, and the people need him there. I think everyone wants to see Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. KO Mania. So Kevin Owens ended up asking Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce to just think about it. And then he walked off. So that was that. And then we had Liv Morgan versus Doudrop. This was boring. This was absolutely boring. Liv Morgan ended up coming out first. We got a pre-recorded backstage promo from her. Ended up saying that how she plans to win the Elimination Chamber and go to WrestleMania. So Dewdrop ended up coming out. She also delivered a pre-recorded promo. She was saying about how everyone disrespects her, but only because she can squash all of them, including Liv Morgan. So the match ended up starting. Dewdrop ended up overpowering earlier on Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan ended up on Dewdrop's back, wearing her down. Dewdrop ended up ramming Liv back into the turnbuckles. Dewdrop ended up missing a splash in the corner as Liv ended up charging at Dewdrop with some attacks. Dewdrop ended up coming right out of the corner with a crossbody. She ended up flattening Liv Morgan. Dewdrop ended up having Liv grounded in the middle of the ring. Liv ended up fighting up and out, delivered a kick to the back of Dewdrop's leg. So Dewdrop ended up getting up. Liv delivered some offense on Dewdrop. Liv delivered a jumping knee to the face to Dewdrop in the corner. She kept control of the match. She ended up nailing some knees to Dewdrop's face. She went for the cover. Dewdrop ended up kicking out too. Dewdrop then went for a powerbomb. Liv ended up countering that. Dewdrop ended up putting Liv into the mat face first, and she went for the cover. Liv Morgan ended up kicking out too. So we had Liv Morgan end up fighting back. Dewdrop ended up yanking her to the mat because Dewdrop ended up taking Liv to the top turnbuckle. So we had Dewdrop end up delivering a corner splash to Liv Morgan. So there you go. Dewdrop end up winning the match. Another loss for Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan deserves better. Overall, match was boring. And then we had Alexa Bliss, the Alexa Bliss journey back to Raw. This was continuation of the little segment that we saw earlier. So the therapist ended up saying that Alexa Bliss is making progress because she didn't react with anger last time when he gave her the Lily replica. So Alexa Bliss ended up revealing a few examples of how she held her anger in while out and about in the last week. So the therapist ended up saying that he thinks they still have some more work to do after she recalls getting mad. Alexa Bliss ended up recalling getting mad at a person at the grocery store who sounded like it may have been, based off Lily, in the description of a person. So Alexa Bliss ended up saying that she got mad at the person and threw them down an aisle. She started beating them with a loaf of bread. And then after that, she took a deep breath and walked out of the store. So that was that. Like I said, these Alexa Bliss therapy segments are awful. But they're slowly progressing to Alexa Bliss becoming the goddess again. So then we had Kevin Patrick. Kevin Patrick was backstage with Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins ended up telling Kevin Patrick that the other Elimination Chamber participants are not him. And his resume speaks for itself. He ended up saying that he's never headlined WrestleMania as a WWE champion. But that changes this year because his time is now. Rollins ended up saying that he doesn't care about Brock Lesnar or Bobby Lashley. So that was that. And then we had Seth Rollins versus Riddle, which this was the main event. So Brock Lesnar, they said that Brock Lesnar is announced for next week. And Styles versus Damian Priest for the United States Championship is also announced for next week on Monday Night Raw. And of course the RKBRO Broga Toga party So those were announced for Monday Night Raw next week. So we had Riddle end up coming out because Seth Rollins, already made his way out. So the match ended up starting, and both guys end up locking up. They end up running the ropes. Rollins end up nailing the early sling blade to Riddle. So Rollins was laughing, started showing off. Riddle ended up going into the armbar. Rollins ended up breaking out of it. He delivered some right hands to Riddle's face against the ropes. Both of them ended up on the apron. Rollins ended up countering and launched Riddle into the barricade with a powerbomb. So Rollins ended up turning Riddle upside down in the corner, started working him over. Rollins went to the top while Riddle was still upside down. He nailed a stomp to Riddle. He ended up going for the cover. Riddle ended up kicking out too. So it's back and forth between the both of them. Riddle ended up blocking the clothesline, ended up dropping Rollins with an overhead kick. So Rollins, later on, he ended up charging at Riddle. Riddle ended up dumping him over the top rope out to the floor, and Riddle delivered a punt kick to Rollins' chest from the apron. He hit the floating bro from the apron out to the floor. And then Kevin Owens ended up rushing out of the timekeeper's area out of nowhere. He ended up dropping Riddle at ringside, and the referee ended up calling for the bell. So Riddle ended up winning by disqualification. And then Randy Orton ended up coming out. Orton ended up going right into the ring. He ended up dropping Owens with the RKO. And Monday Night Raw went to commercial. So the match ended disqualification and Randy Orton came out. You already knew that this was going to be a tag team match. So that's what we got. RK-Bro versus Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. Match started off with Rollins and Orton going at it. Orton ended up delivering a clothesline out of the corner to Rollins. Rollins came back. He ended up clotheslining Orton over the top rope out to the floor. Orton ended up getting sent into the commentary table. So Orton ended up slamming Rollins on top of the announce table. He ended up bringing Rollins back into the ring. Riddle ended up tagging in, and him and Orton ended up double teaming on Rollins. So Rollins ended up kicking out of the assisted floating bro. Kevin Owens ended up tagging in. Riddle ended up sending Rollins out to the floor. Owens then delivered a super kick to Riddle and started mounting him with some right hands. Owens started pounding on Riddle, and he delivered a moonsault to Riddle, and he went for the cover. Riddle ended up kicking out too. So Owens ended up mocking Orton by doing his pose. Owens ended up stepping on Riddle, ended up taking Rollins back in for a double axe handle off the top. So Rollins was dominating on Riddle, stomping on his hands. So Riddle ended up getting up, started a little with some strikes to Rollins. Rollins ended up dropping Riddle. So Owens ended up taking back in. Owens and Rollins double teamed on Riddle. Owens ended up grounding Riddle, and he ended up bending his leg. Owens delivered a clothesline to Riddle, started mocking Orton some more. So Owens was focusing on Matt Riddle's leg, and he went for the cover. Riddle ended up kicking out. So Riddle ended up trying to fight back from the corner, and Owens and Rollins ended up double teaming on him. Owens ended up delivering some cheap shots. Rollins ended up distracting the referee. So Rollins ended up dropping Orton off the apron, and then he super kicked Riddle. So at the end of the match, we had Rollins end up rocking Riddle with a rolling elbow and a forearm to the back of his head. Rollins followed it up with a stomp to Riddle, and he went for the cover. And they go. Rollins and Owens ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Rollins end up getting out of the ring. Kevin Owens was trash-talking. Orton ended up coming from behind and laid out Kevin Owens with the RKO. And that was that. That was how Monday Night Raw went off the air. Overall, this tag match was not needed. And Monday Night Raw, absolutely awful show as always. But still, I gotta say, Monday Night Raw, much better than SmackDown, in my opinion. But still, Raw is terrible. But like I said, still better than SmackDown. Gotta give it that. But anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. There will be no Dynamite review this Wednesday. Dynamite review will be up on Friday, so stay tuned for that. So it will be Dynamite and SmackDown and AEW Rampage on Friday. So until then, I'll see you all later.